What's up, guys? Today we're talking about how to wash a dress shirt. I believe I wore this in a previous Bespoke Edge episode, and not only to prove that I do wash my shirts, I thought this is just good timing. I'm going to toss this in the wash and kind of take you guys through it. Obviously, it is relatively simple to wash a dress shirt. However, there is kind of a couple misconceptions, especially if you bought a really nice shirt and you take it out of the box. It's perfectly pressed, it looks beautiful. You hate to kind of wear it the first time. And then you really hate to put it in the wash and let it get all wrinkled and lose that original brand new package look, right? But when we talk about washing dress shirts, they really are just a basic cotton shirt. Unless, of course, it is something more like a silk or a linen or something a little bit different. But for most of your shirts, they're probably going to be a very basic cotton. Now, I'll do a quick little close-up in a second on this one because there's a couple of things I want to point out, which I think are probably typical from maybe a lot of the shirts that you might have. But just in general, when we talk about washing dress shirts, a couple of key things to keep in mind. If you have a really bad stain, just like anything else, it could be a t-shirt, you kind of want to pre-treat it, and that just means, at the very simplest, taking a little bit of detergent and just kind of putting it on that spot, kind of gently rubbing it in, and then throwing the rest of it in the wash machine. Now, with all of our shirts, a normal cycle is perfectly fine. You don't need to worry about delicate or permanent press or anything else. Normal would be just fine. And as far as water temperature, really a cold water temp is perfectly fine. You may remember from your younger years, at least for me, it's like my mom always told me, okay, your whites are always going to be hot water, that'll take care of anything. And that's usually true, but kind of as a blanket statement, any sort of dress shirt, regardless of color, I just do on cold water, and it's usually pretty good. Now, if I had a really bad stain, I might kind of go to warm water, but I probably wouldn't do hot. And the reason being is that it's just going to kind of be a little bit rougher on your fabric. But here's the thing, the water temperature kind of depends on your specific detergent and then also your wash machine. So there could be a little bit of leeway, but if you're just starting out and you have some new shirts and you kind of want to test it out, just stick with cold, you'll be fine. Now, we can't really talk about temperature without talking about shirts shrinking in the wash. And this is a short sleeve shirt, so we're not going to have any problems with the sleeves shrinking. But for our shirts, I think a lot of them, it's very typical that when you get a new shirt, the sleeves are usually a little bit longer than they probably will end up being. And as a custom clothier, we will actually add a tolerance to make sure that your sleeves shrink after a couple washes to the point that you wanted them to be at. And the other area is the neck, the collar, will be a little bit bigger, not too much, but a little bit bigger than the exact measurement that we measured for you. And that's because the collar and the sleeve length are always two spots that will shrink kind of noticeably. And so we take in those tolerances ahead of time so that after, call it 5 or 6 washes, you're right where you want to be. Now, when you finish the cycle and the wash machine is done, take it out right away. We're pretty close, but don't leave it in there for half of a day. When the cycle is complete, pull things out because your shirt is going to be kind of damp, but those wrinkles are going to start to set and make ironing a bit of a nightmare if you don't take it out relatively soon, right? That's in your best interest, trust me. So I'll do a little video here, well, I'll cut to a different view in a second, but the only other thing I want to talk about was the other two options you have. So to be very clear, we recommend all of our dress shirts just to wash them at home. We think you can do it a little bit more gently than taking it out someplace, and it's going to save you a lot of money. However, if you just do not want to wash it or you don't want to iron it, which I can completely relate, and you just don't want to deal with it, you can take it to cleaners and say you want a wash and press or a clean and press. You don't want to say, I want dry cleaning. Even if it's a dry cleaners, you want to say you want a wash and press. And what they're going to do is just wash it kind of in a great big wash machine just like yours, and they're going to press it and make it look nice and neat, which is, I think, probably the real benefit a lot of us want to go to dry cleaners or the cleaners, is to get that perfectly pressed look. But the key thing is you want to wash and press, and they're going to take care of everything. Now they will be a little bit more, rough, probably. I mean, I don't want to say it across the board because there's some really great cleaners out there, but a lot of cleaners tend to be a little bit more, they approach it in a commercial sense. And so if you have a very fine dress shirt, it's going to be, taken through, shall I say, a little bit more abuse than if you were to do it at home, which can be fine, but it's just one more thing to kind of keep in mind. So, third option, of course, is the venerable dry cleaning. And a lot of dress shirts, we kind of think that we need to dry clean them. But the truth is, dry cleaning is a much, much better solution for things like suits and dress pants than it is cotton dress shirts. And a dry cleaning process really is a bit of a dry process. And so a lot of the water-soluble stains that we get from just everyday use, your dirt and grime, is going to be best taken out when your shirt is submerged in a bunch of water in a typical wash machine. So you kind of miss that with some of the dry cleaning methods. And also you pay an arm and a leg for dry cleaning on something like a simple shirt. So again, totally up to you, but there are pros and cons to each circumstance, each different path. And to summarize, we definitely recommend just washing your dress shirts at home. It's most convenient and easiest on your wallet. Okay, let me show you two things on this over on the table. Okay guys, so close up on this short sleeve dress shirt. A couple things. I made sure that I unbuttoned the button down collar on this dress shirt. And I do that every time I put it in the wash because I just want to have a little less tension on this. If I were to get caught in something, it's just good practice to button or unbutton that. Same goes if you had collar stays. Make sure they come out. You don't want those going through the wash. It's not the end of the world if they do, but it's just a good practice to take them out. And then on this one, you'll notice on the tag here, we are made in the USA, but also this one kind of surprisingly says machine wash warm. And the reason I say it's kind of surprising is that a lot of times a dress shirt like this will say dry clean only. And I have a handful that do say that, but I can still easily put them in the wash, and that's usually just kind of the manufacturer being a little, overly precautious, I think. Also, this one says delicate cycle. Not necessarily needed, in my opinion. I've washed this. Actually, I don't think I've ever washed it on the delicate cycle, and it's just fine. This is a real robust cotton dress shirt, so again, your situation could be unique, but I think you're probably okay with your average dress shirt using normal cycle. And then the one thing I left out while I was over on the couch there is that we never recommend putting your dress shirt in the dryer. You should always just put it on a rack and let it air dry. Even though this is saying tumble dry low, I wouldn't even do that. I think over the long term, you'll be happy that you didn't. And one thing I don't do, however, I should note, is that I don't air dry on a hanger, because a lot of times that thin hanger is going to give me a really strong wrinkle in probably an obvious place off of the seam a little bit. And instead, and I'll show you in a little while, I actually throw it over just a drying rack that's got a much larger radius. That's going to be a little more gentle for the drying purposes. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this is kind of a yellowing armpit. Hopefully that's not too much information, but I think it's relevant to an earlier episode where I talked about how to or why yellow armpits are a thing on a lot of men's dress shirts. And there's some evidence that it's linked to the aluminum that is an active ingredient in a lot of modern day deodorants. But I'm looking at this shirt and thinking that in a future episode I will use this as probably my guinea pig on trying to figure out what cleaning products are going to get this out, if anything. And it's relatively minor, but it's to the point that I probably wouldn't wear this another season because it would start to get a little bit too yellow. And the worst thing, of course, is if it is obvious when you're wearing it. So let's throw this in the wash, and then I'll throw it out, and I'll just, it'll be easy, but I'll show you how I dry it on the drying rack. All right, guys, so just washed my shirt, and obviously a little bit damp, and you'll notice that because I took it out pretty quick, it's really not very wrinkled. I mean, of course, it's been bashed around in the wash machine, but it's not too bad. If I were to keep it in here for a long time, it would start to look quite a bit different. So, off to the drying rack.
So this is what I use, and there's a whole bunch of different options out there, of course, but the key thing is that this is a lot bigger, this diameter, a lot bigger than like a super skinny kind of metal hanger, for instance. And the reason being is that when I just throw it over there, it's going to be wide enough that I'm not going to get a dried shirt that's got a real tight little wrinkle on it. This is pretty benign as far as when it comes time to iron it. I'm not going to have to deal with extra wrinkles, which nobody likes. So that's really the whole thing, right? In hindsight, ironing or washing a dress shirt is relatively easy, and we recommend doing it at home so you can kind of control everything. And normal wash, cold water, easy peasy. And then take it out and dry it. Do not put it in the dryer, as tempting as that may be. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll do an episode tomorrow, I think, on just some pointers on when to wash your suit jacket and nice pants. All right, thanks so much. We'll see you soon.